this video idea was recommended by a friend, and he wanted to know how I have collected the series of Fire Emblem. I don't have all of them, but I do have a lot of Fire Emblem games, and my favorite probably being Three Houses. The past two Fire Emblems on 3DS that I'm playing currently are Fire Emblem Awakening and Fire Emblem Birthright. I would say overall, I love the Fire Emblem series, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Today, we're going to talk about the series and how I collected it. Yeah, show you my collection. I got my Switch in 2019 and I was looking for strategy titles, one of them being the Banner Saga that I ended up loving. Another was Fire Emblem Three Houses. So my good friend Matt Gorgas introduced me to several video games, but one of them being Fire Emblem. And so I decided to give it a try, and I hadn't played very many JRPGs before. I hadn't played very tactical RPGs before. I think turn-based games to a lot of gamers who come from action RPGs and platformers feel a little bit like reading a book. And as I grew older, I realized I missed out on a lot of books and a lot of tactical RPGs. So Fire Emblem is a series that I felt was finally accessible for me because I had the Switch and I knew I was going to use it. And previous to this, I had a Nintendo Wii U, and I used that to play a lot of first-party Nintendo games like Donkey Kong and Mario and some other third parties. And it was a system that I actually loved, and I know a lot of people didn't like. But getting into the Switch, I knew I got to do Nintendo right and actually play the JRPGs that are available on the system, as well as some of the cool indie games. So Three Houses fit into this perfectly. So this is Three Houses, and as I'm sure many of you know, it is a tactical game, but it has, I guess, Persona-like qualities to it. And for some fans, I think they weren't the biggest fan of those qualities. I've found them to be really fun and engaging. I guess I could see if you just purely wanted the tactical battles, then maybe that would feel like filler. But to me, it was really fun because I really liked the characters and I really liked training them as their teacher. And so if you like JRPGs or you are getting into turn-based games for the first time, I highly recommend Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, I was talking to my friend Matt. He said, I want to know, how did you collect your Fire Emblem games? If you know Fire Emblem, you know there aren't very many Fire Emblem games available on the Nintendo Switch. There is a recently released port, or I guess translation, of the first Fire Emblem game. That was an NES game, I believe, that was previously only available in Japan, but I do have that. I decided that I wanted to track down a 3DS and buy all of the Fire Emblem games. So I believe the first one is 2012 to 2013 I guess, Fire Emblem Awakening, which I've beaten. I really enjoyed it the first time around. Next we have Fire Emblem Fates. This one came out in 2015-2016. And then we have Fire Emblem Fates Conquest. This was 2015-2016. And then Fire Emblem Shadow of Valentia Echoes 2017. They're great to unwind to, and they're slow paced. And it's something you can do wherever you are, whether you're watching a show or playing someone else is playing video games and you're just sitting on the couch chilling. It's just a good, slow-paced activity. I love these games for that, but you could also dive in deeper if you want to read all the story, watch all the cutscenes, explore the lore. It's really designed, in my opinion, for the casual and hardcore players. The way I play tactic games is I usually just let the gameplay captivate me, because if the gameplay captivates me, then I know I'm probably going to revisit this, or I'm at least going to check out the other games in the series. And then once I've played through everything, I'll decide which ones I want to go back to and really dive deep in. So I know I'm definitely going to dive into Three Houses again. With the 3DS games, my goal was just to get a wider picture of the series and get more acclimated with the storylines and the gameplay mechanics. I personally view the video game industry and the workflow as a case study for me, because I work in music and a little bit of film and photography. And so I was like learning about how these game developers develop a series over time. So often what I'll do is if I like a series, I'll try and check out as many of the games as I can in that series just to see how they grow the series, how they develop the story, how they develop the mechanics. And for me, Fire Emblem has been really consistent so far. I feel like the 3DS games going back from the Switch feel just as relevant today as I'm sure they felt back then. Maybe when I finish playing all of these, I'll go pre-3DS and play the other Fire Emblem games. I know it gets pretty expensive at that point, but only once I've completed these. The 3DS is really, really nice for playing on the go. So if I'm in the car, I'll pull this out over the Switch because it's so small in form factor that I could fit it in my pocket. If I'm in the doctor's office waiting for the doctor, I can play this game in my pocket and not lug around a ginormous Nintendo Switch. So that is the benefit of the 3DS. It's really small, but I do recommend getting an ergonomic handle like this from Amazon because it's a game changer. Like, I could not keep playing the 3DS without it because my hands are pretty large and the 3DS is pretty small. With this grip, I can still fit it inside of a jacket like this and be pretty incognito. No one will know that I'm playing a tactical JRPG. So I'm gonna play through all of them, hopefully before the new Fire Emblem Engage comes out. And then I also wanna get Fire Emblem, the spin-off that's available on the Switch. That is the Dynasty Warriors kind of mashup. I do recommend collecting them for the 3DS. I wish they were ported to the Switch. I think that would be nice to have them all there. And I think it would be cool to be able to expand the Fire Emblem catalog on the Switch because there are so many people playing the Switch. And I think a lot of people will be interested in Fire Emblem Engage. By the time Awakening came out, this was their last hurrah, which is pretty crazy because if you play this game, it feels like they had a plan to do all of these, but really they weren't sure how successful this was going to be. And it turned out being really successful, and they were able to do all of these. There's just something good about it. You know, there's a lot of indie tactical strategy games, strategy RPGs that when you play them, like from the get-go, you can tell, okay, this is no Fire Emblem. And when you're playing Fire Emblem, it might seem pretty simple from like a gameplay standpoint, but I think what makes it special is the cinematics, the elegance in the simplicity. There's a charm to these games that I think is really hard to find. With Three Houses, this is like being a Harry Potter teacher and then watching your students grow and battle. And there's nothing more fun than that. It's like you feel like you're accomplishing something and you see your accomplishments play out on the battlefield. And that's really cool. And there's a charm to the world. I also love how they don't shy away from talking about religion and politics while also maintaining somehow a fairly joyful experience. It never feels too bogged down in the emotions of the story. It feels still pretty light, even though heavy stuff is always happening. So I highly recommend collecting it for the 3DS and expanding your library. Hopefully you don't have to do what I do and buy it on Amazon. Hopefully you can like shop around at some vintage video game stores and find these in the wild. I will definitely do a follow-up video as I finish all of these and tell you what I think of the stories and which one's my favorite. Maybe Birthright will grow on me. I know when I first started up, I was blown away at the art style. It's just, there's these really subtle improvements to the art style and the character designs that I really appreciate. I think I need to finish it first before I can really say if it's better or worse than Awakening. And we'll see what the other ones are. So I'm curious to hear if you played through all of these. Do you have your favorite? I would love to collect all of the Fire Emblem games over time. That will require me to buy a lot more systems. Let me know what you think about Fire Emblem. I will see you on the next video. Thank you for watching the Yeti Den. Please like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.